now we will unveil the street sign that bears Sandra's name right here on the corner of 92nd Street and Battery Avenue, just a few feet away from Sandra raised 5 boys and spent most of her life. First, want to give thanks to the New York City Department of Transportation for the installation of the sign, the NYPD, the FDNY, the 6-8 precinct, my staff, all the residents here, and most of all to the Casatelli family, Tommy, Stephen, Robert, John Patrick, David, and her sisters, Elaine and Marilyn. Let's give them all a round of applause. You know, we don't do these street renamings very often, and I think there's a good reason for that, because not everyone leaves such an impact on a community that they warrant a street to be named after them. This is a sign that will outlive all of us here today. But I think as you'll hear today, Sandra definitely deserves this. They say in life we leave a legacy to our children. We leave our footprints wherever we travel, and we leave our fingerprints on every heart and every life that we touch. Sandra most certainly left her mark on the hearts of this community, on the lives she uplifted, the people she helped, the neighborhood kids she mentored and mothered, the friends she made, and the local groups she participated in and volunteered for. Sandra left an indelible mark that can never be erased. And today we'll unveil a sign that will cement Sandra's legacy in this community and in this city forever. So who was Sandra Casatelli? Sandra was a lifelong New Yorker. As a child, she immigrated with her family to Brooklyn from Newfoundland. Sandra became a citizen a few years later while living in Sunset Park, and then she moved with her family to 637 92nd Street, right here between Battery and Dahlgren. Sandra attended St. Pat's, and then she attended Fort Hamilton. She married and lived for a short time in Flatbush, but then she moved back to Bay Ridge where she bought her parents' house, the perfect old school Brooklyn story. Sandra lived on this block as a kid and would later raise her family in the same house. Sandra raised all 5 of her boys at 637 and would live 62 out of her 78 amazing years on this earth, here on this block. Sandra certainly had her hands full looking after her own 5 boys, but she always made time for others. She looked after scores of neighborhood kids as a mother and a mentor. She embodied those old school Brooklyn family values. So it's no exaggeration to say Sandra lived for the people around her and served everyone. When Sandra passed away, I remember the line at McLaughlin was a block long, an hour wait. Neighbors, friends, and family, people we haven't seen in years, all stood in the pouring rain to pay their respects. Sandra was truly beloved. I knew her as Mrs. Casatelli, and I never called her anything else. Years later, when I got into politics, we kept in touch, and let me tell you, Mrs. Casatelli never had a problem telling it like it is. When I was writing this speech, I went back and I looked at some of our old Facebook messages, and let me tell you, Mrs. Casatelli never held back. But I appreciated that because she only ever wanted what was best for her community and for her city. And if you knew Sandra, you knew that to her, family was truly everything. So I want to again acknowledge the Casatelli family, Tommy, Stephen, Robert, John Patrick, and David, her sisters Elaine and Marilyn. You've all done so much to keep Sandra's memory and legacy alive because family is truly everything and comes before all else. Let's give them another round of applause. So, as the sun shines down on that sign today and for years to come, Sandra's name will live on and watch over all of us, looking out for us, just like she did looking out for the neighborhood in her life. And with that, I want to get out of the way and turn things over to some people who knew Sandra much better than I did. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And I first want to call up
JT, grab the kids. There's another towel. There you go. Go in, go in, go in. Mike, go in, Mike.
Why don't we face that way? That fork.
No, if we could do it this way, we could fit more people. This is how we did it.
Yeah, that's right. Hanging on things.
Yeah, you go down.
Make Chris change.